Hey, Nathan here, welcome back to another video for the PGL2D Alpha series. And in this video we are going to discuss the TextEntity class. This is going to be related to the physical entity, so there's going to be some duplication here. I do not want to create a derivative of the physical entity for TextEntity, because there's a few things I want to end up doing in the future. So create a new class, TextEntity, and it's going to be a public class, not abstract, and it's going to be a derivative of GameEntity, not physical entity, but it will be iPhysical. Alright, and implement all the missing members. Okay. So we have a few properties. I'm going to rearrange some stuff here. I like to keep properties after the constructor, private fields above the constructor, and methods after the properties. So let's finish up the properties here. So we have color. This is all related to iPhysical. So we have color, rotation, scale vector, and position. We need, of course, text. We need to have public string text. TextEntity can't have a string for setting the text, so we need to have that. This is going to be private set, though. So that is the text, and then we have rectangle and origin, the same as we did with physical entity. Let's get rid of that white space there. So public rectangle, get, and private set. And then we need the origin again, public vector2 origin, get, and private set. Now we need two event handlers. The same thing that we had for the physical object. We need content loaded, but we need another one for a text updated. So public event handler, content loaded, and public event handler, text updated. Okay, so once those are done, we need to add a few private fields at the top here. Private vector2 underscore measure string. Now this is going to hold the x and y width and height of our string in pixels. So it's measuring the string. Private read only string underscore sprite font asset name. So that's going to hold our asset name of our sprite font. Same thing we had with physical entity where we had our texture name. And then private sprite font underscore sprite font. Alright, now our constructor. Our constructor is going to have our asset name, which is the sprite font asset name, our text, our color and position, scale, and that's all we need. Okay, so that is all we need for that constructor. I am going to actually set the position to be an optional parameter. Now the way you do this with structures like this, we need to have default and the structure. So default vector 2, and well, actually it changed the order of where I wanted it to be. Float scale should be at the end there. Float scale is equal to 1.0f. And string text, that should be before the color. Alright, so let me see if I have this. So we need string. The order that we want this is string, the asset name, string text, color, color, vector 2 position, default to 2, vector 2, and float scale of 1.0. So that's all good. I'm going to rename this to asset name. Yep. Underscore sprite font asset name. Okay, so that is renamed to asset name. So that is our constructor. So we set up our asset name. Then we need to set our text is equal to text, color, color, position, position, scale, scale, and we want to set the scale vector. It's equal to new vector 2, scale, scale. Alright, so we got sprite font asset name, text, text, color, color, scale, scale, position, position, and setting up the scale vector. Okay. We're going to set up the load content method like we did with the physical entity. So public void load content manager. We're going to need to add using Microsoft.xna.framework.content. So content manager content. And same thing, if not string.is null or white space underscore sprite font asset name. So if it is not null or white space underscore sprite font, so the content.load sprite font underscore sprite font asset name. Next, we're going to call something we haven't made yet, measure text and update text. Alright, once that is done, content loaded question mark dot invoke this and event args empty. Alright, now we're going to set up the unload content method. Public virtual void unload content underscore sprite font is equal to null. That does not implement the iDisposable, so we do not need to call dispose. Rectangle is equal to new rectangle. Int position dot x. Int position dot y 0 0. We don't have a text string anymore, so we can't measure that. So it'll be 0 0, and origin will be vector 2.0. Okay. Now there are cases where you want to move the text from one position to another. And that's all fine. But when you move the text, we want to update our rectangle. Just like when you move our object, our rectangle has to be updated as well. So I'm going to have it as a move method. So public void move vector to position. So we're moving it to this position. So position is equal to position. Then we call update text, which we have not made yet. Let's go ahead and create that now. So update text, we're going to update our rectangle and set up our origin based off of our measurement. So private void update text. Update text, we're going to provide rectangle is equal to new rectangle. Int position.x, int position.y, and our measurement string, int underscore measure string.x, and int underscore measure string.y. So measure string x and y, that gives us our x and y pixel values for that string. Origin, we're going to set that up to be the center of our text. Origin is equal to new vector2 underscore measure string.x divided by 2.0 f and underscore measure string.y divided by 2.0 f. So that is all the update text is going to do. We are going to have another one. We are going to overload this whenever we want our text to change. Remember, text is a private set here. So we need some way to update the text without accessing that property. So let's set up a public void update text. And we're going to provide the string for our new text value. We're going to set text is equal to text. We're going to measure our text, which we have not done yet. And then we're going to update our text. We're going to call the empty parameter overload to get the rectangle and origin to be updated. Then we're going to call that invoke on text updated question mark dot invoke. This event args empty. That way, if anything wants to be notified when text has been updated, they will be able to after that's been invoked. Okay, now let's set up our measure text here. Private void measure text. So this is going to measure our text, and it's very easy to do with the sprite font. So if underscore sprite font is not equal to null, we're going to set underscore measure string is equal to underscore sprite font dot measure string text. Now, text can be null. We can provide null here. Text is a nullable type. So what do we want to happen if text is null? I chose to use the null coalescing operator, question mark, and just provide the empty string if it is null. Because that way it will provide 0, 0. What's position? Get. Oh. So in the properties, change the public vector to position, add the private set there. Okay. So update entity, that is not going to be implemented. We're probably going to save this for beta full release. Empty for now. So it's going to just be empty for now. If we add animation to our text entity, we are going to have to update it in our update entity here. And to draw the entity, if underscore sprite font does not equal to null, and not string dot is null or white space text. So we're going to call sprite batch dot draw string and provide underscore sprite font text position color rotation origin scale sprite effects dot none and 0.0f. Okay, that is it for this class. So we created a few private fields up at the top of the class. Measure string, that is used to measure the x and y pixel values of our string. You know, our string could be hello, but how many pixels does that take up? 150 pixels wide and 30 pixels tall. Sprite font asset name. What is the name of our sprite font content that we want to use? Check out my monogame beginning, the monogame basics video and advanced video to determine how to draw text. Sprite font, the actual sprite font object that will be used whenever we load in our asset. Then we have our constructor that sets everything up. A few of these are provided by the interface, iPhysical. Color, float rotation, float scale, vector to scale vector, vector to position. Text, rectangle, and origin. Those are new properties we have created just for this class. Text, we need to determine we want to display the text hello. So that gets stored here. Rectangle is used to hold where our position is plus our width and height of our string as a measurement. And our origin just sets the center point of our text. Then we have two events for loaded content and updated text. Whenever we have loaded our content, we'll call that, we'll invoke that. So anything that wants to be notified when our content is loaded, they will receive that invocation. Same thing with text updated. Whenever we update our text from string hello to string world, that they will be notified whenever that happens. Load content here, that just does what we've looked at in the physical entity class. If our asset name is not null or white space, we will load our sprite font, we will measure our text, and we will update our text. And we'll call the content loaded event. Unload content. Sprite font does not implement iDisposable, so we just need to set that to null. We don't need to dispose it. We set rectangle to our position, but our width and height is 0, and our origin to be 0. Move. Whenever we want to move the position of our text from one location to another, we update our position, and then we update our text. Then we call update text, where we set up our rectangle and our origin. You could actually call this from unload content. So if you want to do it that way, make sure you do underscore measure strain is equal to vector2.0, and all you need to do after that is call update text. And then there you go. So update text will set our rectangle and our origin based off the measure strain and our position values. That's the parameterless method. Update text has an overload that takes one parameter, and it is a string value of text. So if we want to change the text of this string from hello to world, we need to call update text by passing in world. So our text gets set to the different text we want to display. The text is different. World is going to have a different measurement than hello, so we need to remeasure our string. Then we need to update our rectangle and our origin based off that new measurement. And then we call that event, so anybody that wants to be notified when the text is updated, they will. Measure strain. If we do have a valid sprite font object, we can measure strain by calling the sprite font.measureStrain method. Now, if text is null, we use the null coalescing operator and provide the empty string. You can provide something here if you want to have debug purposes, like not found or something like that. I just chose to use an empty string. Update entity, that is blank for now. We will add stuff later on if we need to. If we ever have our text update by having an animation, we'll need to have that there. Draw entity, we need to check to see if our sprite font is not null and our text is not null or white space. Then we just call spriteBatch.drawString with the provided arguments, and we are good to go. So that is it for the TextEntity class. Next video, let me bring this up here. Next video, we will start looking at the rectangle collision states. So I hope to see you next time.